My name's Charlie Hamilton James and I'm a conservation photojournalist.
Okay, Charlie, so welcome back to the MLC, welcome back to Man and Biosphere. How does it feel to be back?
It's good to be back. I haven't been here for 2 years, and I walked up the path the other day and saw all the huts and the forest, and it was like coming home. And yeah, I spent so much time here and I got so frustrated here doing so many things and working so hard, and I don't know, I have great memories of this place. It's a lot more modern now, so it's got hot showers. I couldn't believe it, I got in the shower, it was hot. I actually put it to cold because I thought, no, this is wrong. I can't have a hot shower.
It's luxury,
It
out
is.
in the jungle.
And there's a bar.
And there's a bar, a tuck shop. So you visited this part of the Amazon uncountable times, numerous times at least. What is it that keeps you coming back?
I don't know why I keep coming back. I was saying to the guys today, why am I a rainforest specialist nowadays? I have no idea. I love it, but you could really use a break sometimes because it is hard. But it blows your mind. It blows my mind. I go and put a camera trap out in the forest, and I get really frustrated because it rains and I got to keep changing the batteries. And then one day I go along and I press the button, and there's a margay or there's a puma, and that's when it blows my mind. Or it's just those moments when you're just walking through the forest and you see a snake or there's some monkeys. And it's just so cool. Every time you go out, you never know what you're going to see. I think that's one of the cool things of it. Whereas, back in Britain, if I go out, I can pretty much anticipate what I'm going to see.
Last time you were here, the world watched and I bought a rainforest as you bought a plot of land in an effort to better protect just one small part of the rainforest. So what's happened to your land since?
So, well, it's kind of sad. It's only starting to unravel now in the last few weeks. So I don't actually know exactly what's happened. But so Ilias was the guy that was living on the land, and me and Crees, we got together and got Ilias involved in the agroforestry program, and he was replanting, and that has gone sort of well for a couple of years. And I say sort of well because he's made a few mistakes along the way, but I wasn't expecting anything less, to be honest, because it was a huge shift in his life, and it was a huge decision for him to make. And I knew there'd be a few problems, of course there would, but I think from what I can gather in the last few weeks, Crees has had to let him go because he was caught illegal logging by the national park. And I guess that is the one thing you can't do on the Crees scheme, and I think it's really sad. But I don't have any blame for him. I'm not resentful towards him at all. I didn't grow up in the world Ilias grew up in. It's not my job to have an opinion really on how he lives his life or what he's done, and he's had a great opportunity. I can say that, we can say that, but it might not be to him. So I'd like to see him actually. He's a good guy. Everyone keeps asking me why. He's done. He's screwed up. And no, he hasn't screwed up. He's done what Ilias has done, and actually, he's a nice guy. I'd like to see him. His wife's had another kid. I'd just like to catch up with them or see them.
So when you set out, you had great intentions of kind of doing your part to save the rainforest, but it proved to be a much bigger task than maybe anticipated. And it seemed to be disillusioning on many levels, no?
Yeah, I think conservation from afar, you think, oh, I could go and do that and that'll sort that problem out, but actually it doesn't. Conservation in any form is incredibly complex and difficult. When you factor people, real people and real people's lives into the equation, it becomes infinitely more difficult. And I think what I realized was that I was out of my depth, and I was really meddling in a world I didn't understand, and meddling with people's lives I didn't really understand, and that's why I stayed and continued and made a real effort to try and unravel this place, unravel the problems of it and try and understand them. Not so that I could come up with great schemes to fix them, just because I think I needed a real understanding of what the Amazon is, particularly this part of the Amazon. You know, and being on TV, it's my duty to then try and unravel it for the viewer as well, because we have, certainly in England and where I come from, in the Western world, I think we have an understanding of the Amazon which is one built on a romantic ideal sold to us by wildlife films. I've been shooting those wildlife films for 20 years, and actually the Amazon isn't like that. And we think there's good guys, there's bad guys. There's bad guys cutting down the Amazon. There's bad guys mining gold. That's just crap. There's a lot of people really struggling to make a living in a very difficult environment, which is an enormous resource for them, which we expect them not to touch. That's the reality of it. And doing that program really opened my eyes to that. I became far more left-wing making that program. I became a whinging liberal.
Well, looking back on it now, would you have done anything differently?
I wouldn't have bought the land. It wasn't my job to buy the land.
Right, but with all the best intentions, it was also a process it seemed you needed to go through, because a lot of other people can learn from that.
Yeah, I've worked in TV since I was 16, and it's almost impossible getting conservation on television. People don't want to watch it. Commissioners don't want to commission it. And the reason they don't want to commission it is because no one wants to watch it. Because it's considered a boring subject. Well, that to me is an enormous travesty. I think that's profoundly wrong, that we don't educate ourselves, and the media doesn't make an effort to educate people on what's actually happening in the world. It's really wrong. And I think what was nice about the Rainforest series was it was an inherently interesting prospect, the fact that this stupid idiot bought this land, and the viewer was going to go on an adventure to see what I did with it. And therefore it was a very serious conservation series, dressed up, masquerading as a sort of adventure and an entertainment. And that is the actual perfect formula for making conservation. It's something that the viewer actually wants to watch, and they get gripped, they grip while they're watching it, and they watch it all the way through, and they learn at the same time as I'm learning. Because that was the biggest learning experience I've ever been through.
Yeah, that was pretty clear as well. It was interesting to watch.
It's so funny, people come up to me and say, I liked it, it was really real. I think it's so sad that in TV people like something because it's real. It all should be bloody real. But I was. The director really put me through the mincer on that one. I was a broken man by the end. I couldn't stop crying by the end. Like the last 2 weeks I was here, I was just a wreck. I was just physically and emotionally drained. And every time you put a camera on me, I just start blowing away. It's really embarrassing.
Okay, well, interesting to know what happened once the cameras were turned off. This may be a tough one to surmise, but how do you look at your role in conservation now? I mean, obviously you wouldn't take those same steps. Maybe not be so naive as you'd said on camera as well. But knowing what you know, do you have any plans to refocus your efforts on conservation in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of came out of that TV program more determined, I guess, than ever to actually use my skill is I take pictures. Yeah, so now I've gone from wildlife photographer to conservation photogenesis. What I do, I have the ability to reach millions of people with my images, and that's all I do. I've just done a big story on the catastrophic decline of vultures in Africa. I'm doing a big story on wildlife poisoning in Africa next year, all for National Geographic magazine. I'm doing a story now for Geographic on Manu. And these articles get seen and read by millions of people, and I guess that's what I learned. Let's just stick to what I'm good at, and that's taking pictures. I'm not good at buying up bits of land in other people's countries.
So you won't do it again.
Won't do it again.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about this project you're working on right now. Explain a little bit more about what you're going to be doing while you're down here, both at the MLC and for National Geographic.
So National Geographic's running a series next year on the world's national parks. So each issue will feature an article which is based on national parks, whether it's a single national park or about aspects of national parks. I've just finished working on a big project on the Yellowstone National Park, and a couple of years ago I'd already pitched Manu as the world's most biodiverse national park. So that got commissioned, and that's joined the National Park series. So we're going to be looking at, of course, the incredible diversity here, the biodiversity. So I've been out all around, MLC, putting out camera traps, trying to get jaguars, pumas, ocelots. Particularly, I'm after short-eared dogs because, so few pictures of them exist. No one really knows much about them or what they are. So that's my focus here. Tomorrow we're heading properly into Manu National Park, and we are going to go and hang out with the Machigenga people living up in the communities right in the middle of the park, in Taikome, in a place called Yomi Bato. And that part of the story is about indigenous people and their role in the conservation of national parks. Because modern conservation quite rightly suggests that actually indigenous people are very good at looking after their own land. They don't really need us meddling with it. But in the same token, when you introduce influences like healthcare and amenities, you start expanding a population. So how is Manu and how are the indigenous people going to coexist with an expanding population of people living in a national park, which is actually quite unusual. So that's just a kind of look at that. Just and for Geographic, we don't go out with an agenda. Our job is just to document as close to the truth as we can actually get, because you never really know what the truth is. So from my point of view, when I take on a story, I have to work out what aspects of a place to photograph. I have to work out what aspects of Manu to photograph. So I've chosen some animals to photograph, and I think the Machigenga story is a very interesting story to cover, and not just the Machigenga but the other tribes living within the park. And also, Manu is kind of at the forefront in the world at the moment of interactions between uncontacted people living in voluntary isolation and the outside world, and it's always in the news at the moment. Is this interplay between these two groups of people? So that's a very interesting story to cover. So I think it's a fascinating article to have to shoot. It's a hard one because taking pictures in rainforests is just hard.
I hear you. Based on your varied experiences in the Amazon and in conservation, what's the one message you'd want to share with those who are going to be visiting us, or those who just want to know more from home?
Firstly, come and do it. I met two guys the other day who've both been working in banks, and they're out here now for a few months or weeks, I don't know exactly, and I thought, well, good on you. You've been working in a bank in England, just good on you. And now they're just in this world that their family and friends in England cannot possibly imagine they're in. I mean, you can't describe it, you can't film it, you can't photograph it. The relentless biting of insects, slopping around in the mud, but the fun, the adventure they're having. And every day they're doing just crazy stuff. That you look at it, I watch them sometimes, it's just so weird what we do. In conservation, in research and biology, it's just so weird what we actually do. From people looking at it from the outside, you're going out all day to catch bees that feed on orchids so you can study them. There's people in there going through soils, just big piles of soil. And it's actually amazing what they're doing. It's fascinating what they're doing, but it's so weird. So, if you want the best adventure of your life. And the other thing is, you don't have to end it either. There's people that come out here and it changes their life, and they do this stuff forever. Because really, why would you not?